All right. Well, I guess I've got everything I need. And let's pull out the big guns, the notebooks. So, you're probably wondering, first of all, where am I? Because this is not Prob's bedroom. The way I didn't even answer that in the video, but I'm in my bedroom. Second of all, where's Prob? Good question. She's at home. I kind of wanted to really quickly hop on because I had some thoughts. And it may not seem like it, but I'm actually not that much of a talker. I am when I'm with my friends, but alone, I think my throat chakra is very blocked. So that's kind of why I wanted to start the podcast and start vlogging because I really wanted to just do this and put something out and create something. Oh, yeah. Before I get really into this, this is just a trigger warning. You can probably tell from the title what I'm going to end up talking about. And it's going to be about food and just my personal relationship with food. So, what am I doing here? Well, I was just doing my regular things this morning and I had made breakfast. And one of the things that I've always kind of wanted to talk about was food and our relationship to food. This isn't based on any research at all. I've got my laptop here just in case I do need to search something up, but this is purely from my experience. So, this morning, I had a pretty regular sized breakfast, I think. I had whole wheat toast and I made an open face sandwich. So I did whole wheat toast, pesto. I cooked 2 eggs, put some cheese on top of that, and then had like 2.5 slices of ham in there. And I made that. It was delicious. It was yummy. It was good. And I always try my best not to eat junk food and just be a little bit more conscious of what I'm eating. So some days I'm not the best at it, like I don't track it or anything, but some days I'll notice I'm having a little too much like meat and not enough vegetables, and I'll try to correct that. But because I don't track it or because I'm not as aware of it, or yeah, I don't really like do the portions thing. I just kind of eat what's in my fridge and what I have. Where was I going with that? Yeah, so I don't do that. Anyway, that's what I had for breakfast. And then after making that, I had made myself a little pistachio coffee. So I grinded up some pistachios with condensed milk, and then I made a regular oat latte. And after making that, I invited my mom to go grocery shopping because we needed some more stuff. But in the middle of driving, I felt kind of sick. I don't know if like I had just, you know, I don't want to say I ate too much because I truly don't think I ate that much. Um Maybe it was like the cheese, maybe it was like the pesto, I don't know, maybe there was like a little too much butter in there. I don't know. But sometimes after eating, I get a little sick. And if I think too much about food and what I ate, I feel a little sick. And you might be asking, like, what do you mean by sick? It's kind of like just nauseous and like wanting to puke. And it doesn't happen often enough to warrant going to the doctor, but it happens often enough. And if I'm too conscious of it, like if I start thinking about what I ate that day, it kind of makes me sick and it makes me feel that way. I feel like puking. Um, yeah, it just kind of put the idea of my relationship with food at the forefront of my brain. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. I know lots of people struggle with their relationship to food, especially women. Um, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to, I guess, put a story time out there or just talk about it. But anyway, yeah, if we bring it back to when I was younger, I grew up in the Philippines. I came here when I was 12. And while I was in the Philippines growing up, I was a chubbier little kid. I got bullied a lot for that. And I just didn't know. You know, you were a kid, you were growing. Nobody really comments on your weight when you're a kid unless other kids comment on it or like adults if they're like really concerned about it. But I was a bit chubbier, pudgier, whatever. But that didn't really affect my relationship with food. Um, and food was such a good thing and a blessing in the house. Like nobody ever kind of shamed you for eating. My grandparents were bakers, so we had a bakery right next door, and all our meals were eaten together. So it was not like a bad relationship with food. Like I didn't have anyone talking about dieting or anything like that growing up. And I, like, speaking of dieting, never really dieted. And it wasn't until I was 16, 17 that I got into lifting weights. Amateur. I'm an amateur. Um, but at that point, I had kind of grown into my body. Like, it wasn't fat, it wasn't skinny. I hate those terms because it's truly just a body. And it's like a, your vessel of being present in this world. But I was average. Like, I wasn't super toned, wasn't super chunky. I was just living. But I got into lifting weights and I got into going to the gym. And while I was doing that, I started eating a little bit more food and started being a little bit more conscious of what I was eating. So then I started counting macros. And I never counted calories, but I counted macros. And at that point, initially, I thought it was for training purposes. And like, I really did want to get a little bit more lean and kind of figure that out. But after a couple weeks of doing that, I realized it didn't feel good. Um, I was no longer, I wasn't doing it because, no, I did it because I wanted to. And I thought it'd be helpful and it would be good. And there are people who can count their macros and have it be okay. But it got a little obsessive. So just accounting did not make me feel good of being like, what did I eat and what's that? And searching up what the macros are of this and that. That didn't feel good and it felt obsessive. And it felt like if I kept going, then it would spiral to something not so controllable. And so I stopped doing that. And yeah. And then I kind of went through my undergrad being okay, of like average weight, normal body type. Um, I did, however, I will say, when I was in my undergrad, I had scheduled my classes back to back because I didn't realize. And I feel like a lot of students do this. Um, I didn't realize I had to schedule my own lunch time in. And I was always running late. So I didn't really have time for breakfast, and I never really liked breakfast anyway. So I'd go to class, I'd spend the whole day there, and then I'd be starving at the end of the day. And that it would be like 5, 6 p.m. already, and I would have only had that one meal. So that's kind of how I ended up accidentally kind of keeping my weight where it was while I was in undergrad. And yeah, fast forward to, I guess, 21, 22, 23, I got into a relationship, and my partner didn't have the best eating habits. And this isn't to blame it on them or anything, but I basically lived with them and they just weren't eating very good. So we only ever had like pizza or shawarma or this or that, whatever. And he didn't gain any weight, but I did. And that's because I would come home too and I would eat what my family was having. And then I just, I couldn't get out of, like, if he wanted food and I was like, no, I don't want it, they'd be like, no, like, you should eat. And it didn't feel malicious, and it's not malicious at all. Um, but I had gained like 30, 40 pounds in that relationship. And I lost it all now after breaking up with them. That's a little history. And I don't know, I just kind of wanted to bring up that idea of food and see if anyone else felt that way. And I know I don't ever bring it up in friendships. Like, it's not always the best topic to, initiate. But from observations, there's definitely a couple friends that I've like been around and they also have a certain relationship with food, or yeah. And then on top of that, I've hung out with friends alongside men, certain men, not everybody, and they've commented on like my friend's weight, or like just kind of attacked that their body type or something like that, or attack their relationship to food. And I just think I just think that it's so toxic. And I think we should be building a healthier, more sustainable relationship with the things that we eat and nourish us and fuel us. And I think that's how it should be seen. That's how food should be seen, as nourishment, fulfillment, and not as something evil. Um, but yeah, no, we should also, though, search up what percentage of women have dieted. Yeah. I know that growing up in the 2000s, like with our parents and their generation, that, diet culture and like that idea of thinness and healthiness by being thin was so pervasive in the 2000s. And all right, this is from who is UNC? Who is UNC? UNC School of Medicine. UNC School of Medicine is a medical school in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Okay, so from a study in University of North Carolina, the statistics are 42% of first to third grade girls want to be thinner. 81% of 10-year-olds are afraid of being fat. The average American woman is 5 foot 4 inches tall and weighs 140 pounds.
I missed this part of the statistic, but in comparison, the average American model is 5'11" and weighs 117 pounds. Most fashion models are thinner than 98% of American women.
Dieting. 51% of 9 and 10-year-old girls feel better about themselves if they are on a diet. 46% of 9 to 11-year-olds are sometimes or very often on diets, and 82% of their families are sometimes or very often on diets. 91% of women recently surveyed on a college campus had attempted to control their weight through dieting. 22% dieted often or always. Okay. So, yeah, like it's pervasive. It's we see it in social media, we grew up with it, and it is toxic. um, and it sucks because you see body types go through trends. So 2000s, 2010s, it was in to be skinny and thin. And then you reached 2017, 2018 to recently, and BBLs are on trends. Um so it's just toxic. And I don't know, I have like nothing to offer in terms of advice or anything like that. Um, this is just release as like a food for thought kind of thing. But what helped me personally kind of heal my relationship with food, and like is still in the process of doing, is that as long as I am eating something that is nourishing to my body and I am not starving my body that is here to, let me experience the world, then it's all good. Like, yes, you should move. Yes, you should work out because it's good for you. It's good for your bones. It's good for your muscles. It's good for your brain. But really take the time, I guess, to examine where these thoughts about food are coming from. Is it coming from you? Is your body telling you, hey, the food that you're giving me is making me feel sick. It's making me not feel good. I have less energy, whatever. Or is it coming from outside of you, from social media, from family, from strangers? And are they projecting those ideas onto you? Um, but yeah, just a small food for thought and something that I really wanted to come on and talk about. Okay, I have to really quickly hop back in because that was not the best advice. Not only should you look at where those thoughts about food is coming from, if it's truly coming from you or outside of you, because you know your body best, but you should talk to a friend if you're feeling this way, or you should talk to a professional. Alberta Health Services do have programs and services to help with that. I don't have personal experience with it, so I can't speak about it from a personal perspective, but they have the CEDP, the Eating Disorder Program, which provides specialized services to meet the needs of Albertans of all ages with a diagnosis of anorexia, bulimia, and other specified feeding or eating disorders. They have assessments, they have treatments, they have day treatment programs, and they do have three different sites. And they kind of manage the level of care depending on how much, yeah. Their phone number is 403-955-7700, and it is located at the Alberta Children's Hospital, Richmond Road Diagnostic and Treatment Center, and Foothills Medical Center. That will be linked below, and I will also link the statistics I read out in the description below. Yeah, as for advice, I really don't have much beyond what I already said. Talk to a friend. Truly, truly, if you feel this way, please talk to a friend or a loved one or someone you trust or a professional. I am not a professional. This video was not made, to have anything to say beyond my personal experience with that. I do think that we need to be more careful with the way we talk to ourselves and about other people, if you do that, in terms of food and eating. There are people I find that have, commented on my weight or commented on food at some point in my life. And I really think we should shift that perspective, or we should shift the way we talk about food to ourselves and other people. I think it's really dangerous to base it off of fear and body image, like, like being like this conversation is so hard. Okay. I think that conversations should come out of love and care, and it shouldn't be taboo. Like, I've had people who have commented about my weight or food offhand or out of nowhere, but it never comes from love. It's not always ill intent, but it's not a loving way and a supportive way to bring up that topic. It is always like an offhanded comment, like, oh, like you're eating that? Or, oh, maybe you shouldn't have that. Or, like, oh, you're looking sexy. Or, oh, you. I have such bad examples, but you know how it is with families sometimes. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of the best I've got. I really think we should just talk about it in a more loving and caring, and in a way that like supports growth towards it. Does that make sense? I'm just gonna go. All right. And before I close this out, you might be wondering, is this the podcast? This is not the podcast. This is me practicing for the podcast. Um, I've found that Prob and I are actually not listening to each other when we talk. And it's feeling more so like bouncing our ideas off of each other really quickly without thinking and digesting what the other has to say. And I also cannot talk and process. So this is me practicing. But if you watch that and uh, and you have an opinion or you want to talk about it, please feel free to reach out and we can talk about it. I don't know. But thanks for watching, and I hope you tune in for the podcast would prob. All right. Bye, kids.